Hi, I'm Rachel Salzberg, a mindset and leadership coach and founder of the movement and podcast series, The Riesel Revolution. I believe that every person has the potential to create a story of transformation about their life that's so great it serves as an inspiration and model to our families, our communities, and our organizations. This podcast series serves as a platform for people to have a voice, and it serves as an inspiration for you to write your story. It's my mission through this podcast series to help people to realize their potential by resouling and connecting with themselves, and then resurging with confidence and empowered to share their gifts and purpose with the world. Please join the movement by listening to the Riesel Revolution.
So, James, this is like, I can't, the story is just, I feel it in my body just listening to you, and the places of darkness and this incredible, when the question was asked, were you trying to kill yourself? And this place of denial that you were in to the realization, which is the breaking point of awareness.
Yeah.
And, and what I appreciate so much was, you made a choice in that moment to say, I want to change. I don't want to be like this anymore. And the other part was that you created, disciplines around your mindset, and whether it's, and you asked for help and you got resources to support you to do that.
I didn't know what else to do. It was like, okay, this is not where I thought I was, and so I kind of got to get help.
Yeah.
At that point.
But that's also a choice, and that tells me, and tells the world that all these decisions are a choice despite what's happening outside. You were very, very committed to the experiences and belief systems of growing up that society had kind of placed in terms of what success looks like, and the wonderful thing is you made this choice to change, and you were going to go on a journey to change, and so tell me more about that. In terms of if you made the choice to change, you made the choice to ask for help, to do meditation, to do all of these disciplines to shift your mindset. How was that sustainable over time? What was your process there?
I'm not sure this is kind of a good answer, but I had shown the tendency towards addiction, right, with alcoholism. So like this desire to keep hitting myself with sort of dopamine to make me feel good. And if I'm honest, some of those things I started doing, reading those books, doing meditation, to me, they had a slightly addictive quality, because every book I would read and uncover some nugget of wisdom or truth or new thing I could do was kind of giving me that little hit. So I think there was some of that in there, in there for me. Another way of saying that is I made it a habit. So maybe that's the healthier way of talking about it, that it became something routine.
Right. Yeah. And I love the fact that you bring up this idea of habit and understanding, when we have addicted personalities, it's understanding where we can channel and leverage that as a positive, and to, as we understand as coaches, to shift mindset, it's a discipline, it's a habit. So tell me about kind of more about your routine around shifting your mindset, and we can be overloaded with so much information, but do you have like maybe 3 tools that you used to help you create this new habit and then discipline to change your cellular structure of your brain?
Yes. I think first there has to be a why. And I've been thinking about this a little over the last couple of years, but so many companies set goals, but they rarely say why the goal is important. And so when I set goals, not this year, the year before, I made sure there was a why attached to each of them. So, for example, I want to exercise more. Goal that everybody puts, on their lists. But why? Why do I want to exercise more? When I exercise more, I'm able to be calmer for my family, I have more energy, and I'm able to live my kind of more authentic life. That's why I do it. So I think that's a really big rock for me, something to anchor to. I think starting small. So sometimes, as a coach, you'll work with somebody and somebody will be like, oh, I'm going to run a marathon or something. It's like, okay, cool. That is an amazing goal to have, to build a habit of running. Like, let's focus on putting your shoes by the door every night. Let's make that the habit. You don't even need to go out. Just get the shoes in place. So once you got the shoes in place, then it's more likely that you're going to go out, or then get your running clothes out and put that on your bed, in the morning, and then you got those two things, then you put them on, then you go out, and then it becomes this cascade. So I think if you try and make a very big habit, that can be very, very challenging. And I think celebrate the success. Be proud of what you achieve and accomplish, even if it's not what you expected. I have a friend who runs ultra marathons, hundreds, possibly hundreds and hundreds of miles. I forget how long, but he didn't get there by doing that.
Right.
You got there by starting running around the park, something like that.
And I love how you bring up the idea of, especially when you decide to make a change for yourself, it can be kind of overwhelming, and you want to kind of having the patience and the discipline to create little goals for yourself versus trying to do it 0 to 100, or 0 to 1,000 right away. And that takes the pressure off of yourself. And I think that that's a really great point for people to hear when they want to make a deep, sustainable change. It's creating small goals for yourself and taking the pressure off. And most importantly, celebrating those successes versus being hard on yourself, right? We can get what we choose to focus on, right, is so important in terms of how to shift that mindset. And I really appreciate the fact that you were able to come to the realization that it was just a belief system, and to make a choice again, right? To not only seek out more support, but as your therapist and psychotherapist had said, that there's a piece of the puzzle here that is so deep beyond, and the awareness of, I get myself now. And so were you able to accept yourself around this diagnosis per se?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think what those diagnoses have done, what exploring my inner self has done, is help me feel like it's not all me. I had, so many people, built up that sense that I had to control everything. And I think sort of bipolar in some ways set me free insofar as, okay, this stuff that I do, it's not all me. Some of this is actually outside of my control. So I found that incredibly helpful to be able to let go, I think, of parts of me that were, just hurting and broken and judgmental, and just to know that, there was more than just the things I could control.
And that sense of freedom, when you kind of surrender and let go, opens up so much for, it's kind of a choice of how you want to be moving forward, and then how you want to leverage your experiences to be able to make a difference in people's lives and tell that story. And that's kind of, so when did you decide then to not only share your story, and so, well, let me ask you this: how did you communicate to not only family but the people you worked with, to, how did you tell people about your story, and what was, in terms of a purpose around it, how did people respond?
I feel like I've received either nothing but support or kind of a indifference. And I read indifference more as, I just don't know what to say. It's outside of my worldview. My family, Amy, has been very supportive, kind of explained some things for her as well, I guess, because we've been together so long. I have a small immediate family. My mum sadly had passed away. My sister has been incredibly supportive. She's in the therapy counseling world, and so she understands. We all have some shared trauma, so my sister, my brother, and I kind of are able to swap war stories, which I found to be very healing. Again, I'm not crazy. It's ironic, right? I am crazy, but like in knowing that I'm not crazy.
Right. Yeah.
It's an odd thing, but yeah, so we were able to get closer around that, and it's interesting actually how it affected each of us sort of differently in different ways. And I think of it as there's probably 100 genes that would indicate bipolar, and some stuff happened in my life that activated them. And that just is what it is. I'm not in control of that. I'm not in control of having bipolar. I am in control of how I talk about it, deal with it,
Right.
etc.
Right. And I think that that's a really good point in terms of, especially in today's world, we feel so out of control and so overwhelmed, and especially with how do you manage now in this kind of day and age, and what's happening between, the pandemic to systemic racism to, because mental health is such an important factor here. How do you manage currently?
It's a combination. I would say overall, I've been pretty good this year. Much better than I might have expected, given all the things that you talked about. I've had my moments of choosing to completely shut down and disconnect from certain things. Counterintuitively, I found that when I realized that I was trying too hard, think about work as an example, just trying to force it and make it happen and control everything. When I let go, and actually I did a very conscious thing, which was, I'm going to be average this year, because I'd always kind of been on the higher end of the performance scale, right? I'm going to be average. And I sat down with my manager at the end of that year, and he's like, I don't know what happened this year, but like it was amazing, like A star or something like that. And it was so weird to me at first that I'd consciously worked less hard, less hours, taken on less stuff, and it worked out better. Yeah. And I talk with sometimes when I'm coaching with people, like share this story, and people have this moment of like, well, that's not right. That's not how it's supposed to work. But I think it's because when you're trying to control things and make things happen, so much of your energy goes into the kind of the coercion and trying to figure out all the angles, and it's not on the kind of what the work really means and why it matters and what really is trying to be done. And I think that's so true in so many aspects of life. And I'm not saying that is applicable everywhere and should be used for everything, but I found it to be true. And I let go, things actually seem to work out better.
Yeah. And you bring up such a good point in terms of this kind of this motto right now that I'm trying to live by is less is more. And then, also being able to, and then it's the taking care of yourself and your mindset and taking the pressure off of yourself and knowing your why so that you can make a bigger impact and you're more motivated and rejuvenated to do so. And it's counterintuitive for most people. And, we see this as coaches. I'm sure you've seen this, that people, especially working from home, although it's most people would say they wouldn't go back to the office, but what we're seeing is that burnout and fatigue as well, because people are working longer more and it bleeding through the weekends. And so being able to take that break to do less is more. And again, I saw something yesterday too. Something was written that it's you're doing better than you think.
Yeah.
Right. And
that's so true.
It's so true. Yeah. We're always doing better than you think. And so I think that's a great perspective to communicate to the world. And with the working at home thing, it's funny.
like you, obviously I work with people and help them think through things like this, and so I kind of, I know all the answers in some ways, but I catch myself, I don't know if you do this, but I catch myself sometimes being like, oh, I haven't worked hard enough or long enough today, or not taking a break away from my desk, which like there's literally no reason not to do apart from myself. Like there's no boss watching me. So it's so funny. I love those moments when I catch myself in those kind of stories that I know, and be able to say like, oh, that's really funny. Look, you went there. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and what the wonderful thing about being a coach is you can catch yourself, but the other side, as we experience, is like we can be the coach for others, but oftentimes we forget about ourselves. And so again, it comes back to taking care of self, and also being able to share your voice and your transparency and your honesty. And that's why I wanted to really be able to interview you, so you had the opportunity to share your voice and your story as well. Because as coaches, we sometimes find ourselves kind of isolated in one sense, without asking for help and support. And so it's to remember, to not only share your story, but to give your others permission to be able to help you, which is a really huge. It's hard to do sometimes.
Yeah, I signed up this year with a HR practice. They have a coaching practice as well, and I made a conscious effort to reach out to that community in ways that makes me uncomfortable. I remember there was a project I got where there needed to be a 360, and it was